Have you ever wanted to play a JRPG like Final Fantasy, but at the table? Did you want to play as a tabletop role-playing game? Chive Knights is trying to emulate those 80s and early 90s JRPGs like Final Fantasy, like the original Final Fantasy, where you have a troop of heroes and they're traveling around a continent and trying to find temples and overcome a great evil and save the world, which is pretty cool. They have some interesting mechanics in here that I think really help give you that flavor. First off, if you've ever played one of these JRPGs, you know that you have different rows of your characters. Well, they give you mechanics in Chive Knights of how to do those rows, and they've thought out not just what those mechanics might mean, but also a bunch of different items and how they would interact, and a bunch of different classes. So if you're wondering about how to make rows work in a combat setting, Chive Knights works really well for you. And especially if you're wanting to do a little bit more than just theater of the mind, but you don't want to have an entire battle map, this might be a nice compromise. So Chive Knights has figured out this row mechanic, and it might be useful for you if you're an aspiring game designer to look at how this works, because I think they have some really interesting ideas. In addition, to give you that flavor, I don't know if you remember the save points, which was a limitation of those systems and being able to not save every second. They only had certain spaces that you could save at, and they give you these safe crystals, which I love the name and the flavor here that they're giving you. You're looking for these safe crystals along the journey so that you can rest. And while you rest, you can swap jobs, which I haven't talked about. But in these early JRPGs, you often had these jobs which were basically like your class. And a cool thing about this game is your journey in the story is to find these special crystals, and the special crystals unlock more jobs for you, and you can change your jobs. In addition, because you're the hero, normally when people die in Deathbringer and other OSRs, you're dead for good. But in Chive Knights, because you're the special hero, you actually become resurrected at a save crystal. So basically, your character can continue to go on and develop, even if they die. This allows you to be both narrative and deadly. And I think it's a nice fix that really works well with the theme. So if you want to play a hyper deadly game, but also a narrative game and not lose your character, this does it. So this might be the game for you. If you are brand new to tabletop role-playing games, I don't know that this is actually the game to teach you how to play role-playing games at the table. I think maybe instead, go and find a different game and then come back to this one, because there's a lot of nuggets in here. There's a lot of useful stuff, especially for somebody who's been a veteran of tabletop role-playing games. Maybe you've GM'd before. This is a great resource, but it's more designed as notes. It's more designed in a way for someone who already knows what they're doing, and it tells you that up front. It tells you that at the beginning. This is probably not your first tabletop role-playing game, and I kind of like that. I kind of appreciate that, hey, they're like, this is not for newbies. If it is, it's still fine to read through it. You'll still have interesting bits of lore, and you'll have different mechanics, but it's not going to fully explain those mechanics. It assumes that you kind of know what +1 means. It assumes that you know what charisma and dexterity mean. Although it does give you a brief description, it's not going to be teaching you how and giving you a bunch of different examples of how to play the typical things. It does go on and explain how to run the particular mechanics of the game, but it's not explaining really how to play a tabletop role-playing game altogether as a whole, like what that concept is. But if you found Chive Knights, if you're watching this video, you probably already know what a tabletop role-playing game is. So it's kind of, in a way, efficient to leave that out. I do want to point out that one thing that he does well is he gives you 3 different highlighting notes that are in there. He gives you blue, which says this is an example of play. So if you're looking for examples of play, all you have to do is go to blue. He gives you green, which is lore. So if you're I'm gonna use my own lore, you can just totally ignore that. Or if you're man, this lore is interesting, all I want to do is read the lore, you can just go read the green bits. And he also gives you yellow, which is GM tips. He's basically giving you advice on how to run the game, and he's he's clearly separated, like, these are the rules, like, you have to follow these, and these are my advice and things that you could change, which I do appreciate him clearly separating those three out. And bonus points, he has thought of colorblind people, and he's got green and blue instead of green and red. Now, I'm not colorblind, but I do appreciate the thought and the ability to include people who might have, you know, problems like seeing things. All right, so it is definitely a hack of old school like BX games, and I think that actually works really well with the setting. So it's more like this OSR kind of rule set, and he's giving you like, you have ambushes, you've got initiative, and you have your order of operations. So there's like 8 different steps of combat, and depending on what your character is trying to do, they're going to go different in order. So it is very much a hack. You're not going to see a ton of new mechanics, but I think what is in the game of Chive Knights is solid. Like, these are proven mechanics. They've been used before. It's going to work well at your table. Something I'm not really like 100% sure about. He does give you like an intro adventure. He gives you some cool maps. He gives you monsters and different ways of flavoring them, and he gives you a ton of random tables. Yes, random tables, we love that. But then he gets to like the fourth to last page, and there's like the Chaos Temple, and it's just question marks. And I don't know if I love that or if I don't like it, because it's the Temple of Chaos. So like, what is there? We don't know. It could be anything. It's almost an invitation to us to make up our own and continue the story from here. But it also seems like what I want the Temple of Chaos. Like, I got this. Like, what's there? Who knows? Maybe there will be a sequel and have Chive Knights 2, and we'll figure out what is in the Temple of Chaos. Or maybe they've got other things on their channel. I'll have to go check it out to see. You will also see some clear references like to chocobos that aren't called chocobos. And you will also see like the items that the players can get have references to legendary items. Like, you can get David's Sling, you can get Excalibur, you can get Mjolnir. I mean, there's lots of cool items that the players, once they hear these, will go, oh yeah! And that's like the early Final Fantasy games, where you are able to get these legendary items and get all of the stats and +4 and feel fitted out. Like, yeah, my character's awesome. I've leveled up. I've got these cool things. So kudos to that. I feel like it really plays into the feeling that you should be getting when you're at the table with this game. If you're thinking about Chive Knights, and if you are interested in getting it, I think it's only like $7 on drive-thru. You can check the link in the description below. I think it's worth a read if you're an aspiring designer, if you like JRPGs, if you like tabletop role-playing games, this is the game for you. Full disclosure, I haven't been able to play this game yet, but I hope to soon. Thank you so much for watching this video, and may all your games be full of dread and laughter.